Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to masach this Avodah Zarah daf chaf. We're going to begin on the very bottom of Yud Tes Amid Beis by the new Mishnah, says the Masnisa. The ein oisin tachshitin la'avodas kachavon. You're not allowed to provide certain items, tachshitin, which we're going to see exactly what that includes, for idol worshippers, including katla ois, which are chokers, which basically women would wear around their neck, v'nizamim, v'tabas, different types of rings and bracelets. So these things were not allowed. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer depends. B'schar mutter, ein moich b'schar mutter. If you're actually getting paid to do it, then it's allowed. Then it says ein moich lehen b'mechuber lakarka. Now, a person's not allowed to sell anything which is attached to the ground, obviously including land itself. But you could sell it. So, for example, when a tree is cut down, you can sell it on condition that it will be cut off. We'll see what exactly that machlokas is in today's daf. So the Gemara asks, Minahani. So how do we know that we're so strict you can't even sell these items to an akum? So Amar Rabbi Yosi Bar Chanina, so he says it's based on the following pasuk. As we continue Daf Chaf Amad Aleph Diyar Kra, so the pasuk tells us, the pasuk states in Devarim, Unasnam Hashem Kechel Fenecha, that Hashem will place them before you, and in addition to that, it says Vihikisam Hacharim, Tacharim, Oisam, Lo Sichos Lahem Bris, V'lo Sechanim. These are all different things that a person is not allowed to do. So what does that mean, Lo Techanim? So there actually are three meanings of this word. So according to this, is Lo Titin Lahem Chaniya B'karku. Do not give them any resting place on the ground. In other words, don't sell them any land in Eretz Yisrael. So lo yisachanim boile lahachi kaimer rachman lo sitin lehem chain. I thought we used that pasuk to teach us something else, that you should not give them grace. What does that mean? It says Rashi, shel yomer kamavad ovid kachavim zena. So if you see a particular person who is, let's say, a beautiful idol worshiper, and she's a beautiful woman, for example, you should not compliment her. So that's what we're supposed to learn out from here. So Gemara says, you're right, but we learn out more than one thing. He came lemekra loy sechainim, my lo techanim shmamina tarti. So we learn out two things. We learn out from that you can't give them a free gift. So Gemara says, you're right. That's a third thing. In came lemekra lo sechinam, my lo sechanim, without the yud shmamina kulhu. So we derive three things from the same pasuk regarding an Ovid Kachavim. This is question one. El Gimel Isurim Kaloyulim Be'Isr Tayrulo Sachanim Be'ezmem Tali Beplugta. Okay, I'm not sure if we got to that necessarily, but at the very least, one has to do with selling land, one has to do with not complimenting, creating chain, and the other one is matnas chinam. And matnas chinam, as we're going to see in a second, is a machlokas tonight. So, Tanya Mihachu, you learn similarly to this in a brisa. It says, Lo sechanim, lo sitil lehem chaniya. As we said, there should not be chaniya b'karka. You're not allowed to basically sell them land in Eretz Yisrael. Davar acher, lo sechanim, lo sitil lehem chain. As you said, not to compliment their beauty. Davar acher, lo sechanim, lo titil lehem matnas chinam. So basically, it quotes all three. However, matnas chinam gufa tanahi. As we just said, it's actually a machlokas tanoim regarding matnas chinam. So that not everyone agrees to. And how do we see that not everyone agrees? In other words, maybe you could sell, you could give a gift to an akum desanya. V'osaychel kol nevela. So the pasuk says in Devarim, v'osaychel kol nevela, you're not allowed to eat non-kosher. Rather, l'ger asher b'sharecha titnena. It says you should give it to the ger, and he should eat it. Obviously, it doesn't mean a ger who's Jewish. It means someone who upholds to the Noachite laws. Oh, machor nachri, or it says, or you can sell it to a nachri, and this is Kam Kadosh Ata, because you're a holy person. You can't cook milk and meat together, basically, as the pasuk in Devarim says. So, the Sanya, it says lager asher b'sharecha titnena ve'achla. So it sounds that this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give to the ger. You can give it to the ger or machla nachri, but to a nachri like an chavim. So we're not going to be as nice and give it to him. But rather, you should sell it. So ainly el ger b'nesina chavim b'machira, as the pasuk says. So ger b'machira menayin tamad lemer titnena. O machar lo b'chachamim b'nesim menayin tamad lemer titnena b'yachla oy marchol nachri. Nimsa to oimer echad ger ve'echad v'chachavim ben b'nesina b'machir de Rameir. So Rameir actually says no, it's not true. We're not reading the pasuk to say it's exact. It's just coming to tell you that when it comes to a ger or to a nachri, you can give it. In other words, you can give it to an Avich, which is the Chiddush over here, which is the Machlokes Tanaim. And also, when it comes to a ger, you don't have to give it to him as a gift. You could sell it to him as well. Says Rashi, ger toishiv shekibul of sheva mitzvahs. So again, we're not talking about a yid, because a yid is mitzvah. If someone converts to Judaism, you have to keep the mitzvahs. So therefore, it's referring to someone who is not Jewish, but they adhere to the 7 Noachite laws, and nevelas are allowed to them. They're allowed to eat nevelas. They just can't eat Ever and Achai. So that's the Shita Rameir. Rabbi Huda Aimer Devarim Kechsavim. No, it's exactly as it's written. You can only sell it to an Avich Chachavim, but not give it to an Avich Chachavim. So Shat become Rameir. So it sounds like Rameir's Shita, which basically allows everything, is very good. Rabbi Yehuda Armulach Isach Kidikam Rameir, based on how Rameir reads the pasuk, Lichter Rachmana Titnena Ba'achal Omachar. Oh, Lamali. Why does it say oh? Oh means you could either do this or that. It's mashma that you can't do both, right? Shema Mino L'Dabarim Kechsavim Huda Asa. Rameir, why does it say oh? Which is mashma you can only sell it to an Avich Chachavim. You can't give it to him. So Rameir Hulach Dumin Nesina De Gerel Mechir Davich Chachavim. Even though it's true that maybe you're going to not make money, but it's better to give this nevela to a ger because he accepts the Sheva mitzvah like a Noachite person. He accepts the mitzvos of the Sheva mitzvos Meninoach. Better to give it to him than to even to sell it to Akum. Rabbi Yehuda kivan the gerat to mitzuva l'achayosai. So he says, well, the truth is, we know that when it comes to a ger, because he upholds the law, among the seven mitzvos, and also includes having a court system. So this is someone who cares about the living a good, harmonious life. So you're mitzvah to help that person. We understand that if you have the choice, it's better to give it to a ger because you're mitzvah to help that person. Okay, so therefore, that is the explanation for that. Okay, so question TB3 is the same question we had before. Beautifully written. That was TB3. TB3. Okay, fine. Let's continue in the Gemara. So, so you shouldn't be over complimentary to sinners of idols. So, Rab, the Rab, you can't compliment, oh, how beautiful is this Avik Chachavim. It's not true. Al Gabi Mala Bahar Bayis, so he was going on the road by the base of Mikdash. He saw this idol worshipper woman. No b'yoser. She wasn't just beautiful; she was exceedingly beautiful. Omer Ma Rabba Masach Hashem. That's one of the things we say right after Baruch. We say Ma Rabba Masach Hashem. So we think of all the beauty that Hashem created. So you see a beautiful woman, you say, Ma Rabba Masach Hashem. The Rabbi Kiva Ashes Turnus Rufus Harasha, and Rabbi Kiva saw the wife of Turnus Rufus, Rak Shacha Kubacha, laughing and crying. Rak Shahaisa Ba Matip Ra. So why was she Roik Shachi Kubacha? He spit, laughed, and cried. So he spit because she came from like everyone else in when a person is conceived, from a tipa srucha. Shachak diasida de megaira. He was v'natziv law. He saw that one day he, Rabbi Kiva, was going to actually marry the wife of Turnus Rufus when she converts. However, Bacha dahavi shufra boli afra. He was sad because he knew that one day something so beautiful would end up dying. So anyway, the kash is, we see that you are allowed to do this. So when it came to this story, all he was doing was thanking Hashem. He wasn't complimenting her. He was saying, Ma Rabba Asach Hashem. She walked by, didn't hear a word. So the question is, why didn't he say that bracha instead? But the point is that that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to acknowledge the beauty of this world. Lastaluki mishari. Understand, there's one problem. So how is he being mistakil? How is he staring at this beautiful woman? Meisvei, the pasuk says in Nishmart b'chol davar ra, you have to guard yourself from any evil. Shalot yistakol adam meisha na ve'afil panuya. And now to look at a beautiful woman, even if she's not married, if she's married, even if she's not attractive. So it's an interesting, I guess, a panuya, if she's not attractive, it's okay. But the point is that an Eishes Ish is certainly off limits, so we have to be even more careful. Chavum Beis. Interesting, you're not even allowed to look at the garments that a woman normally wears, that they're colored. Not animals, donkeys that are breeding. Not pigs. While they're mating, you should not watch them. The afilu mole naim kamalach hamavas. It says that even if your eyes are full, like the malach hamavas, amr love al malach hamavas shekul mole naim b'shas petiroso shulchayla oimed mial mirashaisav. The malach hamavas will stand on your head. The charba shulch b'yad a sword. The tipa shel mara tuliyaboy, and a drop of bile will be hanging. Kivan shechayla roisam is dazdeya. So he sees the shaking. Bosech piv. He opens his mouth. V'zarklo tach piv. Mimena meis mimena matzriach mimenu panav marikais. Anyway, this is a pretty dramatic statement, but the point is, it's certainly wrong for him to have gazed upon this woman. So fine, he didn't compliment her. So, but why was he mistaken? The answer is Karen Zavas Havoy. Says Rashi, Kishapoina liyamin ol small, and he turned right or left. L'chanis mimavoy lamavoy upoigen zed zeb Karen Zavis. So he turned a corner and she was right there. The inara isa merachik. She wasn't far away. So therefore, basically, he had no choice. He just encountered her upon the road. He wasn't pursuing to look after a woman. Happens to be that he was walking and she was right there. Okay. So on this, the Gemara continues. V'lo b'bigdei tseva shel isha. So you're also not supposed to look at women's garments, colored. Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, afilu shetaychen al gabi kaisel. If the clothes are hanging, basically on the wall, that's also not allowed. That's also not allowed. So Amar Papa, so he explains it a little bit better. It's only where the person recognizes the owner of the garments, namely, the woman whose clothes these are. Omer Rabba dekanami detani v'lo b'bidit seva isha v'lo katani v'lo b'gdei sevuyin shmamina. Why does it say isha? It doesn't mean women's clothes. Obviously, we're not talking about looking at a man's pants. We're talking about women's clothes. So it means isha means that the woman who normally wears this And therefore, you're going to imagine what would she look like wearing this beautiful garment, and it could lead to hirhor. Furthermore, hanimili batiki. That's only if it's old clothes, namely garments that she's already worn, and therefore you actually maybe saw her wearing them. Even if she just bought them, but she never wore them, or you just walk by and you see women's clothes on a mannequin, that's obviously not an issue. So when it comes to launderers that accept clothes, how can you give it to them? They're looking at it. So the point is that either it's new garments or it's garments that they don't really know who the woman is. So Tamech says 1 second. So Hadiyam Rabbi Huda min b'mino mutter. If you have two animals that are mating together, mutter lahachnis kimachachal b'shvayferis. If let's say you're the farmer, you can not only watch what's going on, but you can even put the male member into the female in order to make sure that they breed. So hakach mistakel. If you do that, you're definitely being mistakel. Marin says, yeah, but that's going to be different. Avidita tarid hachanami avidita tarid. So basically, what we're saying is that when it comes to a laundromat, it's not necessarily that it's not new clothes; it's old clothes, right? You're washing clothes, and let's say the woman brings her laundry in, so you're looking at her clothes. Yeah, but the point is, if that's your job, right, then you're not really thinking about it. So this is just what you do. You wash clothes. It's not like something which is overly exciting. So it's the same thing that if you're a farmer, right, and you're breeding animals, so you're not thinking improper thoughts. So that's why it's an exception. Says Rashi, V'dafka big date sivuyin, and only if it's colored. Because women look beautiful in colored clothes, and they don't wear them as often. Avol shar begadim, deshchichi. However, other garments which they wear all the time, it's not for beautification. That a person is not going to necessarily have these thoughts. Says Rashi, libo since you're so busy doing your job, you're not thinking about anything else. Back in the Gemara, Omar, mimena mace. So it says, from it they died, and this is, as we said, this person was mastakel and all these different things. So the Malach HaMaves ends up saying that he stands on their head. The sword on shluf is drawn. V'tipa shel mara tuyabo, and there's this drop of bile that is hanging upon them. And once they get sick, basically opens their mouth and they throw this into the mouth and then they die, right? So basically it's the bile that kills. So Nema pliga de Avodah Shmuel, the Emer Avodah Shmuel, Armali Malach HaMaves, the Malach HaMaves told me, Ilo de Chayshina likara divraisa havi parano beis hashchita kebehema. So he said that if I wasn't afraid, then I would tear out from the person the beis hashchita like an animal. So the question basically is saying is that fine. What that's basically saying is that that's basically how the Malach HaMaves would kill. So Dilma ha'itipa michadchalhu l'simanim. Maybe this drop was like placed onto the simanim, the place of the shchita. Memena matzriach, so it says, and from there it'll spoil. Messiah Rav Chanina bar Kahana, Amri Beirav haraitz shel yatzriach meisu yavchenu al panav. Someone who does not want the mace to spoil, they should turn them basically around. Okay. So fine. So it says you should guard yourself from any form of evil. By having improper thoughts during the day, you'll end up to maybe seeing Carrie at night. Mekan, and from here we learn out the famous drasha of Amra Pinchas ben Yair. Taira mavidalidi zihirus. If a person learns a lot of Taira, then it'll bring you to to zihirus, being careful. It says Torah, aladi she'oisik ba, since you learn a lot of Torah, v'od shira u'mevin azharos sheba v'nishmar. So basically, since you learn a lot of Torah, you're going to be more zahir, you're going to be more careful in the mitzvos. Zihirus mevi l'di zrizus, that once you are careful, so you're also going to have alacrity. You're going to try to go quickly to do the mitzvahs properly. And Rashi says also kaidem l'chein zrizas zaris v'nishmer kaidem l'chein shel tabu aver liyadai. You're going to be extra careful so that you're not going to end up potentially doing a sin. This is basically it's saying that if you don't have hirhurim in the morning, in the day, then you're not going to come to ziva at the night. So therefore, that's how you have zrizas. Zrizas nikios. Rashi says noki be'en chet, and as you're clean from sin. And then once you reach that level, nikios mavila de precious. Precious, Rashi says, is af medavar hamutter, even something in which is permitted, but maybe it's not so great, so you should still distance yourself from that. So there's a person who's like, there's nothing wrong with eating overabundantly, right? But on some level, precious, you don't have to do everything. You can distance yourself from certain things. Precious mevilide tahira, and then you can become pure. Tahar mevilide chasidus. And then Chasidus mavile de anava, to humility, anava mavile de yirschat. So like basically one of the highest levels is having a yirschat. Yirschat mavile de kedusha mavile ruach hakodesh. Rashi says lahashros alav shchina. So basically that the shchina can reside among you. Ruach hakodesh mavile tchias hamesim. So tchias hamesim is obviously the top. Now the Chasidus. The truth is, Chasidus, even though it's in the middle, is actually greater than all of them. Shenemar, because the pasuk states in Yeshaya, Ruach Hashem Elokim Olai, that the Ruach is upon me. Yan Moshach Hashem Oisi. Hashem is anointed me Lavaser, Novim Sholachani, etc. So Oz Debarta. So again, it gives the impression that this pasuk is showing that being a chassid is the highest level. So maybe it's not chassidus, but humility. Shenemar, as the pasuk says. So the pasuk before actually was in Tehillim. Az dibarta b'chazayin l'chasidecha. So this Shenam Ruach Hashem Elokim alive. The Ruach is by me. Yan Mashach Hashem Oisi Levaser Novim. So it shows that it's humility which is the greatest. Chasidim lo nemar el Novim. Holmana to Shanav Gedoyla Mekulan. So it actually shows it's greater than all of them. Again, it's interesting. How is it Gadol Mekulan when there's even things afterwards? Regardless, that is the answer. So it's either Chasidus is greater or another Gedola Mekulan. So that's the question, which one it is. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to get to the mission on the bottom, so let's keep going. So he said, you're not allowed to sell all these different things, and in addition to that, you're not allowed to sell a tree. It's actually a machlokas. Can't sell something which is mechobel karka, and you also cannot sell unless it was already cut down. Rabbi Yehuda says you could do it almanas that will be cut down. The almanas that will be cut down is fine, so that's okay. Okay, so on this, that is the machlokas. So on this, the Gemara says like this: Tanaban moichan hen ilan. You can sell a tree almanas likites v'katzas. The Rabbi Yehuda. All you have to do is just make sure it's cut down, and that's part of the stipulation. You can only sell a tree that has already been cut off. Okay, that's one. Shachas almanas ligzais v'goizais. The Rabbi Yehuda. Remember, ein moichan ella gezuza. Also, when it comes to shachas, says Rashi, the nirale naim de kama de mishile mishtabach. that for apparently this gets better. The Rashi actually above that says tavua schitin, it's wheat, the sa'irin or barley, kaidim shetimale bezirin. So before it's completely rooted and completed in its process, so that's what shachas says. It's usually for animal consumption about 1/3 of its typical growth. So we have we talked about a tree, we talked about shachas, and then we have a third machlokus is kama, standing grain, almanas liktsar, the kaitzer de Rabbi Yehuda, Rameir Omer ein moichen el katsura. So the question is, why do we need these three cases to teach us the same machlokus Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda, whether or not you can sell it to them almanas on condition, or you can only sell them these things once they're already cut down. The Sriach Yashmin and Elon, if we talk about a tree, Bahakam Rameir, maybe in that case, Rameir says in a strict way, Kivan Doi Fasid, since he's not losing out, Mashile. So he'll delay. No, he'll delay it. The Akam is not going to lose out. Although high, when it comes to Shachas, the Chimashmila Pasid, if he waits, the grain can get ruined. Right? So, in other words, if it's something in which it's going to get ruined, so Shachas, a tree is a tree, it could just stay there. The problem is, Shachas, if you leave it, it'll end up spoiling, let's say it that way. And therefore, because of that, there's a greater likelihood that it's going to be cut down anyway, and therefore the condition will definitely end up following through. So maybe he'll agree to Rabbi Yehuda that even a condition, even before it was cut off, is still good. V'yashminan bahani tarti mishum dol yadia shebe shavchayhu. You don't know necessarily its growth, its benefit. Aval shachas the yadil shavchayhu. When it comes to shachas, we know. Says Rashi, the nirale naim dekama damashvile mishavachas. It appears that maybe it will get better. A mamoidal rameir that you have to wait until it's cut off. The yashamin baha bahakam rameir of a bahanach and mamoidal Rabbi Yehuda sricha iboilu behema manas lishched mahu. How about selling an animal on condition that it's going to be shechted? Says Rashi is referring to a matana. A master imo befirish that perish. You actually made this condition. So hasam time amai shar Rabbi Yehuda when it came to trees, deliver shusi kaima, because it's not it's not in his rishus, this land. It's not in the Akam's land. It's in the Jew's property. So he can't delay. Of a behema, the kivan de rishusei. Since it's in his domain, maybe he will delay. If an animal on condition to shecht, you shecht it, so therefore we see that when it comes to this, there is no difference, and therefore we still see the same the same machlokas. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's look at question TA2. Ein moichin lehem b'mechubel karka Rabbi Yehuda Aimer moicher hu almanas likaitz beil dal devarim nechachu Rabbi Yehuda v'Rameir bebraisa imahani tenai. So one is an elon almanas likaitz, shachas almanas ligzois, kama the standing grain almanas liktzor, and behema almanas lishchait. Adkan.